20 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with partial sunshine developing and a high around 90. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Tonight, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 68. By Tuesday, sunshine, a high of 86 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun. We'll see a high around 90. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 75.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the June 30th, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is the Credo mobile phone and text line. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. You can email me at richard@WCPT820.com and catch me on Substack. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. There you can get the short versions and the long versions of Choose Views. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago and our other shows and interviews. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, which is our digital platform. And on today's show, our guest will include Michelle Duster, historian and author. She's going to be chatting us up a little bit about July 4th and some other information on Juneteenth. But also on the show today is my wonderful, great colleague, Joan Esposito. Joan and I are chatty, so we'll talk about a couple things this morning. So looking forward to having Joan with us for a bit in the 7:30 hour. Michelle will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour. But right now, check this out, progressives.
Okay, so wild idea. 2 presidents, 2 systems. You vote red, you get a red card. You vote blue, you get a blue card. But for the next 4 years, that card is your life. You need health care? Present your card. Public transportation? Card. You go to a restaurant? Show the card. You're trying to file taxes or get disaster relief or apply for a job, even to get utilities, yeah, you're going to need that card. Red card holders get the policies they voted for. No Medicaid expansion, no union protections, no student loan relief, no restaurants with immigrant employees or even food picked by immigrant hands, no federal disaster aid, unless, of course, the hurricane was Jesus approved, and absolutely no abortion access, even if your mistress needs one. And since we're talking about accountability, red card holders only get the benefits their states actually pay for. So no more blue state bailouts, no more taking in more federal money than you contribute. So if you're living off that $1,100 a month in blue benefits now, you better learn how to make that red $300 stretch. Roads, your problem. Bridges, good luck. Those inspections don't pay for themselves. Hospitals, shuttered. But hey, until the Wi-Fi gets cut off, you can still yell about socialism on Facebook. But blue card holders, you're going to get infrastructure, you're going to get safety nets, you're going to get the public schools that actually teach history. Red card holders can still ignore science, but blue card holders are going to get the freedom to follow it. And I promise you this, after one term, just one, you're going to see a flood of red cards turning blue. Because nothing exposes bad political ideology like being forced to live under it. No scapegoats, no whataboutisms, just the raw, unfiltered consequences of your vote. So let's try it. Let's split the country. Not by secession, just by accountability. Because talk is cheap and reality isn't.
There you go, progressives. Blue card, red card. I like that. That's something that I'd never heard before. And I know that a lot of people are probably frustrated with the fact that certain states are, for lack of better words, carrying other states. And it tends to be the blue states, based on the numbers, not on my opinion, that carry the red states are carrying the blue states. That's something that we've talked about for years and years. And I like what the guy says in the clip. You know, if you voted, if we don't have to have these battles any longer. We can just have a really simple, if you voted for this, if you voted in that way, then you should be responsible. Because here's the thing, you should be responsible for all the things that vote takes from you. Okay, why should other people in the country who actually didn't vote for that, the folks that voted for on a federal level, Kamala Harris, and I'm not doing revisionist history. I'm just talking about it in terms of where we are today. Actually, the people who voted for Kamala Harris didn't vote for what we have going on right now. Didn't. I mean, I'm being not totally literal, but you get the point. We didn't vote for this. So why should we have to suffer under it? The people who voted for Trump voted for this. Whether they now don't like it or not is a different story. They voted for what he said he was going to do. If you didn't pay attention to Project 2025 with all the information that was out there and you voted still for him, then you should get a red card. We shouldn't have to suffer because of you deciding that your arrogance, your self-importance, your privilege, and all the other things that my other two legs of the four-legged stool. You shouldn't actually get the benefits of what we didn't vote for. You should have to deal with what you voted for and not get the benefits of what we were trying to vote for. Because at the end of the day, those of us that voted for Harris and voted for Democrats in the Senate and in the House and all the rest of the offices, we voted for you to get the same benefits. That's the difference. We voted so that you wouldn't have to suffer. We voted so that the 14th Amendment would be left intact and we wouldn't have to worry about birthright citizenship, tipping the hand, tipping the scale. You all have to watch this. I have another clip that we're going to play about that and this SCOTUS decision. Some people aren't taking it seriously enough. It's personal to me, and I'll tell you why when we get to that. But I wanted anybody in a red state to be able to benefit from the things that Vice President Harris was going to bring forward and that the Republicans were going to try to stop. I wanted the people that are in a southern border state to benefit from what Joe Biden had proposed and what Kamala Harris is going to fight for when it came to southern border issues, so that everybody would be the folks that benefited from that we all would, not just Democrats. I voted so that a mom in rural Arkansas wouldn't have to drive 100 miles to get to a hospital, irrespective of what the color of her skin is or what her beliefs are necessarily. She could hate the sight of a black man, but I still wanted to make sure that she, if in need, her parents did not have to drive 100 miles to get to medical care. That's what I voted for. And so when I think about red card and blue card, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, you know what? We shouldn't have to suffer for the insanity that's coming out of this administration and Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation. Not one bit. None of us should have to suffer for any of that if we didn't vote for it. And the conversation around majority rules or the majority gets to pick, well, then if that's the case, then you got to pick the red card and suffer. You should maybe have to suffer proportionately higher if the majority. Think about it like this. This is how if the majority rules, then the majority has to look at the fact that if you voted for this, then you should get the majority of the pain. I just feel like that's a lot. It's an interesting perspective. Now, I know that that's not how it works. I get that. And I know that we should be, when I say something like that, or we talk about red card, blue card, that we have to look at it from the perspective of that's not fair to all of America. I get it. However, why should those who didn't vote for it have to suffer from it? So I just think it's an interesting take on that conversation. Red card, blue card. We got another clip that we'll let you guys appreciate. And this is, again, in this conversation around choice and that who we should be fearing or who should be fearing us and what the difference really can look like, from Senator Cory Booker.
what Jefferson said. When people fear their government, there is tyranny. When the government fears its people, there's liberty. Well, there are a whole bunch of senators here. How do I know it? Because they whisper it to me in the elevator that disagree with what Donald Trump is doing. But you know who they fear? They fear the president and his reprisals more than they fear the American people. Right. And you know what that means? That the equation to shift this lies on us, the American people, to telling those folks, if you vote against my health care, if you vote against my food stamps or my Meals on Wheels, if you vote against my disabled child, if you vote against the veteran in my state who just got fired by Doge, if you vote against them, I'm coming after your job. You better fear me more than you fear him because your days are numbered. And until we shift that equation, these guys are going to follow that man to their detriment. Right now, we have a Republican Party that is laying down when they know that what Hegseth tweeting out plans on Signal to reporters. They know that he's unqualified for that position. I can go through from the beginning of his administration to now how many things I know that they know is not right, but they're following it because they're afraid of him more than they're concerned about the American people.
And they should be afraid of us, the American people that Senator Booker's talking about, not afraid of Donald Trump. Lisa Murkowski, you can step to the front of the line for how do you, if you go on an interview and you tell a journalist, a reporter, a host that you're afraid, that some of us are afraid, then you should step down because that means you're not then capable of doing your job. I mean, literally, she went on that interview a few weeks ago. We played the clip where she said that. So step down. You know, I mean, how worse can it be? And again, I should know this, but I don't, so I apologize. Does the governor of the state appoint a senator, in her replacement? Or do they have a special election? I don't know the answer to that, and I apologize that I don't. But the fact still remains, step down. So one could say, well, we can get something worse. Well, what's worse? What's worse than Lisa Murkowski? I mean, honestly, I know. I think I know from a senator standpoint. I think I know where Ted Cruz stands. Kind of know where he stands. I know what's coming from him. I think I have a pretty good idea of where John Thune stands, the Senate Majority Leader. I think I pretty much know. Okay? Small margin of error. But Lisa Murkowski, you never really know. She says and talks, and then she stabs folks in the back. When we come back from the break, we'll get into this a little bit more. The number is 773-763-9278. Welcome to Monday morning, y'all. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. Did you know that there are only 49 states in America that require you to have car insurance? At Chicago's Progressive Talk, we're in Illinois, and Illinois is one of the 49 states that require you to have car insurance. Let's look at some car insurance companies that support the Democratic Party. American Family Insurance. American Family Insurance was once very conservative, but since 2019, they have moved to the left, donating $214,000 to Democrats in 2024. AAA was also once very conservative. But in 2014, they shifted to the left, donating $235,000 to Democrats in 2024. 83% of their donations went to Democrats. Liberty Mutual. Now, Liberty Mutual leans to the left, and yes, they did donate $1.6 million to Democrats in 2024. That was only 64% of their donations. Progressive Insurance. Progressive does not give to politics, but some of their senior leaders do, and their senior leaders lean left. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's Progressive Talk from TuneIn.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chew.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, progressives. Welcome back to the show. It's Monday, and that means that yesterday was Sunday. And what was yesterday? Yesterday was the Pride Parade here in Chicago, and man, did we show up and show out. Thanks to WCPT's entire team, namely the man sitting across from me, Devin, is always on point with any of our external remote events. I mean, this is a dude that shows up and shows out. So when you call in today or any day, and Devin's here, give my man a shout out because he gets it done. He really, really does. He's committed as hell. So there. Now, there's a commercial for Devin this morning, but let's talk about the event.
I just want to also say thank you to Logan, our new engineer. He was also a big help getting all the sound system set up, and he's my 6 a.m. buddy.
There it is.
Richard knows all about 6 a.m. buddies.
Oh, whew, man. If we don't have them, we perish here in this crazy thing. Our first, let me first talk about CPT. Thank you to everybody that was there. Lady B, I don't have all. Lady B, Joan was there. Edwin was there. Who am I missing, Devin? Patty was there. Good God. Whew, Patty.
We had Patty. We had Vicky and Matt, our new interns. They're both awesome.
Yep.
We had Ellen and Scott and Matt Cummings over at the center of Halstead doing the remote. And we had Paul Shivari back here manning the station.
I actually have a picture that Ellen or somebody took from the roof line or whatever from the remote broadcast. That I'll get that posted. But shout out to everybody that had their hand on the float and helped to get it put together and all the things and the teardown, which is also a big part of the project. But also thanks to the city of Chicago for staying in the fight and not letting the externals push us away from supporting this incredibly important effort. Also, thanks to Governor Pritzker and Lieutenant Governor Stratton, who were right behind us as we were getting kind of queued up. I had a chance to chat with Lieutenant Governor for a few minutes, and she's just on point and fired up about taking care and protecting our state. As is the governor, so that was really quite awesome. And thanks to anybody that came up to me and said hi and was kind enough to take a picture or shake my hand. Thank you. I'm humbled by it, and I don't remember everybody's name, so I'm not going to pretend and lie and pretend like, oh yeah, just thank you to all those folks who came up and said hi, and thanks to me and to Patty and to Joan. And to Edwin, we appreciate that more than you can imagine. So shout outs to you guys who listen and are faithful followers. And then thanks to the organizers of the parade at large, which is, again, part of the city of Chicago. But, we got it done. And the parade was awesome. I mean, just the folks, it was a ton of people out, just great floats. It was just, what an event that, once again, Chicago is in. We're now, once Memorial Day hits, we're in the throes of putting on some great performances, whether it be Blues Fest, whether it be Jazz Fest, whether it be picnics in the park, shows in the park, Lollapalooza, Pride Parade, Pride Fest, Taste of Chicago, the NASCAR race, and all the things that we do. We're in the throes of really doing what Chicago does well, and that's pulling back our big shoulders and putting on some great events for people to be able to appreciate here in the city. So that made me proud once again of the city of Chicago making it happen, and the state of Illinois and its support in that process. So if you don't get the idea that I was impressed and happy with what we all put together, then there you go, because we got a lot done. So thanks to everybody that was a part of it. Whether if I've missed your name, you know that I appreciate your effort. Let's talk a little bit about some of the Choose Views news this morning, Devin, and then we will get back to some more of our other items. The jobless claims hit a 3-year high. Recurring applications for unemployment benefits hit their highest level in almost 4 years. And an indication that more Americans are out of work longer term. For the week that ended June 14th, about 1.97 million people filed continuing claims, according to the Labor Department. First-time claims dropped, though, to 236,000 for the week ending June 21st, reflecting relatively low, quote, levels of layoffs. Meanwhile, the U.S. merchandise trade deficit grew thanks to the biggest drop in exports since the pandemic. Amazon is overhauling its grocery business. They want to trim the fat from its grocery business, the company said earlier this month. And now with the new leadership, CEO Jason Pichel is increasingly leaning on artificial intelligence to make grocery deliveries faster and more cost efficient, according to CNBC. Canada's trade talks were cut, and then there was some EU upbeat talks that took place as Canada has those trade talks have come to a halt. It could face some fresh tariffs. As we know, some of those are about to expire based on social media posts by Donald Trump. The reason, he said, Canada was angling to impose a digital services tax. Did he think that they weren't going to push back? Meanwhile, the European Union is signaling confidence in, quote, some of the trade agreement by July 9th, according to Bloomberg. So we know that these are coming to an end based on this pause. But Treasury Secretary Scott, I don't know what I'm talking about, Bessent, said negotiations with more than a dozen other trading partners might extend to Labor Day. Okay. Job edge is dulling for college grads. Some college grads recently who have spent over a year hunting for a job are starting to doubt the value of their undergraduate degrees. And employment rate for college graduates ages 22 to 27 rose to 5.3% in the past 6 months. What has the Trump administration done about that? They said they were going to have a fix for everything. Anyhow, typically college graduates in this age group have a lower unemployment rate than workers without degrees. Now the advantage is as small as it's been at any point in over 30 years. And wanted 400,000 U.S. factory workers. Efforts to revive American manufacturing face a major challenge. What? A 400,000 person shortfall of skilled blue-collar workers, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. As older factory workers retire, fewer young people are stepping into their roles, which generally offer lower pay and less flexibility than white-collar jobs. These days, they also require specialized training. This is where we dropped the ball 40 years ago. We just did. Companies having difficulty attracting and retaining talent point to a lack of vocational education and cultural pressure to go to college. So that's something systemic that's been a problem for years. I've said that before on this show and on others, that we dropped the ball back in the 80s. The Reagan administration was at the tipping point of that by not making sure that we were spending time training our middle-class workers, middle-class folks that make and design and build stuff, and not putting dollars into that. This is where we are. That was a decision that the federal government got in the middle of, and breaking up unions contributed to that. So blame Reagan, blame the Republicans. Ronald Reagan was not a saint. This is a result of 30, 40 years of not investing in our own people. And I've been saying that for a long time, over 25 years. And so there you go. All right. So as we move along, I want to make sure, as I always tell you guys, to make your way over to Heartland Signal. There's some great clips that are over there. One in particular that I think you guys will appreciate is the Governor Pritzker is, breaking down his reasons for running for a third term, and we played some of those last week. So you can make your way over to Heartland Signal to pick up on those. And one in particular from U.S. Senator from Illinois, Senator Tammy Duckworth. Sorry. And how she's giving them the business about this big, ugly bill. So there you go. All right. I was talking about Murkowski a moment ago. And before I get back to that, I do want to give a shout out to former Vice President Harris and President Biden, who were at the Hortman funeral up in Minnesota, of which was such her death and her husband's death, tragedy. You can't put it any other way. But who shows up? Biden and Harris. So America, that's what you missed. They showed up when the current president didn't. He wasn't that busy. He could have shown up, and to not be there for, and the reason he didn't go is because it's a blue state, in my opinion. But Biden and Harris were there, and it was such a tender and precious moment. You may have seen the video by now. The two of them during prayer holding hands, and so that's who our folks are. And neither of them needed to go or was required to go, but they did because they recognize the importance of that. So they showed up, and that's what you missed out on. That's what America missed out on, because they were so hell-bent on this guy's going to fix the economy, he's going to fix trade, he's going to fix foreign policy, he's going to stop the wars, he's going to fix the border, or and as I look at it, the southern border. He's going to reduce the price of eggs. And then, some people say the price of eggs are down, but gas is not necessarily proportionately down. It's down for the federal government based on gas prices there. But at the pump across the nation, average prices have not sank to the levels that Trump promised they would. Where is gas $1.98 a gallon? If it's in certain states, then that's because of the state tax laws that allow them to lower the percentage of tax that they can charge or that they're required to charge. But even outside of that, the chaos and the hell that we're dealing with, is it worth it? So I go back to the red card and the blue card. And who's showing up for you? Biden and Harris showed up to show their respects for the family, for the community, for the state, for the governor, for that matter. They did. Sure. So, deep breath. We're going to take a quick break. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. 800-708-3091. That's 800-708-3091.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with partial sunshine developing and a high around 90. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Tonight, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 68. By Tuesday, sunshine, a high of 86 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun. We'll see a high around 90. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 77.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. I hope I don't sound like I'm yelling at you guys this morning. I don't mean yelling because of content, but the volume, because Devin and I have been playing Mad Scientist here with our various headphones and connections. So don't think I'm yelling into the mic. I'm just having a little sort of that cross feed in your headphones. So there you go. Today on Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to Peter Beinart, editor-at-large for Jewish Currents, professor of journalism at the City University of New York, and author of the 2025 book, Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza, A Reckoning. Cook County Commissioner and candidate for Congress Kevin Morris, Sky Perryman, president and CEO of Democracy Forward, a national legal organization that advances democracy and social progress through litigation, and David Hochberg, Live, Local, and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT AM 820, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years. And tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez, I'll call her Ms. Bubbles. Nobody take that the wrong way. Patty had 2 bubble machines. I think she may have had a third one on the float yesterday. So it was kind of cool to have that. Patty is back, and her guests will include Jenny Caraco, the approachable healer, with a Mental Health Monday conversation. That's Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. There you go. And this, of course, is still the Credo Mobile phone and text line. Credo Mobile, a phone company that is better for all people and the planet. Visit credomobile.com. All right. So, Lisa Murkowski. What can I tell you? She's definitely. I just don't think she's capable of doing the job any longer. But why don't we have a caller join us that might have a couple things to say about that this morning? Good morning. I figured that I would hand it off to you because I know what you want to say you can't say on the air, and I know what I want to say I can't say on the air. So I'm going to blame you if something bad gets said.
Well, I just want to see a reasonable, quote unquote, Republican, a principled, quote unquote, Republican. It's a wrap on the Republican Party. They have not a credible leg to stand on when it comes to doing public service, doing their job, legislating for the American people and for their constituents. So, we need better. We absolutely need.
Like Senator Booker said, they need to be afraid of, as he said, they should be afraid of the voters and the citizens, not have elected officials be afraid of Donald Trump. And Lisa Murkowski is afraid of Donald Trump and his whatever. Her voters should have more to say about fear than he has to say about fear to her. It's crazy.
Well, absolutely. Well, yeah, and she was the one that sat up there and talked about how she's afraid. Okay, if you're afraid, then you need to step aside because your constituents deserve a fearless representative that is going to stand up to this bully. What this big, beautiful bill, is going to do is just annihilate the middle class, working class, and poor. It's horrible. But, I am going to give some real props to the Senate Democrats for what they are forcing Republicans to do, and likely for the first time read this big, beautiful bill. On the floor of the Senate, they have been forced to do this overnight.
Yep.
They then have 20 hours of debate. Giving 10 to the Democrats, 10 to the Republicans. Republicans are likely not going to use their 10 hours, right? Because they just want to, do what the dear leader wants them to do. But the Democrats can slow this down an additional 10 hours. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff. So, the big, giant, stinky orange man baby is not going to get what he wants before the 4th of July. Or, if he does, it's going to be after a hell of a lot of pain, and they're going to have to be, like I said, reading it out loud and probably reading it for the first time and reading it out loud to the American people. So I urge everybody to share this.
Well, to share, but also,
call.
Karen, don't you think that this is the more than appropriate time to call the Capitol switchboard? And this is where Democratic citizens, Democratic voters, the 77 million plus that voted for Vice President Harris, need to call Republican Senate offices. All of them. Forget about calling. Not forget about this week. Right now. Don't worry about calling the senators that are Democratic. We lined up. Schumer kept the caucus in line. Okay, so let's not beat up on Chuck today. No need for that. He kept them in line. Not one of them flipped or moved or whatever. So the work right now is to call the 51 Republican traitors, as I said to Joan yesterday on the float, call those 51 Republican traitors because 2 came over. Who was it? Gosh darn it. Rand Paul, and who was the other that came over? Was it Mike? Not Mike Lee. Doesn't matter. The 50.
I can't think of it. Yeah.
They all should have come over, but this is what we should be advocating. Call the 51 Republican senators who were traitors to the country and get on their backside right now. And maybe there's a if as we like to say, if there's a God, she will say to them, a couple of y'all need to cross over because don't be afraid of this this idol. Don't worship an idol. You should be, let's be honest. If you're a Christian and you're a senator and you're Republican and you're worshiping that idol, you're breaching one of the tenets. You should be listening to the community. So anyhow, Karen.
Not only that, I mean, regardless of what they have been, successful at lying to their, the MAGA base about, Donald Trump and, their loyalty to him, they're not, the MAGA base, they don't particularly like these people. And, when they start feeling what this big, beautiful bill is going to do to them or do to their grandmother when she can't get, Meals on Wheels and, no Social Security checks coming in, believe me, they're going to have an angry base on their hands.
Yep. And now the Senate rule keeper is about to blow the deal apart because of the way in which they I guess you could say sort of pimped out Murkowski, to be honest, or she allowed herself to be, because now I haven't read all the text yet. I got to read it. I got to read all the details. But somehow the advancement of the bill, they didn't check all the boxes as it relates to how they went about procedurally getting her to vote for the bill without having some clarification. I'm not sure all the details, and I apologize, guys. But the point of it all is they can't even do a deal the right way. Right? They can't even do a deal to get the vote. They can't do that and check all the boxes the right way. This is who
that doesn't surprise me. This is who this party has. This is who they are. Because they don't care. They don't care about doing their jobs well. They don't, because if they did, then they would actually go there to do the work of the people. They're not doing that. They never, and I can't remember a time in my adult life where they have. I really struggle to find, any Republicans that operate under good faith. And I mean, even the ones that do, it's like a one-off. They show up and do the right thing here and there. But the rest of the time, they're just as bad. They're voting with Donald Trump, and they voted with George W. Bush 90+% of the time.
Yep, they did, and people forget about that.
This is exactly. So it's like, I'm not going to give. We bend over backwards, and the media bends over backwards, giving credit to the Republicans for, whatting the bed all the time. And it's maddening. But this is great. This is great to see from our Democratic leadership. And if you are going to call them and thank them for doing this.
Yep.
But absolutely, I agree. We have to put the fire to the Republican senators, first and foremost. There's another thing, too, and it is kind of, it's a great thing that they are so, I want to say a word, but I don't know if it'll be, it's okay, feckless. They're so feckless in how they, do their job, and they don't, cross all the T's and dot the I's, and that is to our benefit. Anita, my co-host, was telling me that apparently even with this Supreme Court decision, I don't know if you heard this, Richard, I have to read a little bit more into it, but apparently with them going and saying that the states, the federal judges in the states now cannot stop or can, like with the mifepristone, I don't know what you call it. Anyway, so they basically gave power to the to the Supreme Court to, so all of those federal judges are basically, their decisions they are null and void, right?
Essentially, they can't enforce. I have a clip that I'm going to play to that.
They can't enforce it. But wait, listen to this. So now, apparently, though, there's some sort of a loophole that they've found where you can switch it to a class action.
Mm-hmm. But you have to be part of the class.
Yes. So I have to, and admittedly, but the point being, these are some things that we are doing, that people are doing to fight against this and to slow it down. And every single expert on authoritarianism and how tyranny takes hold, this is what it is. You have to slow it down. That may be the best we can do until we can get to the midterms.
Yeah.
And then please, God, we get these people out of here.
And make sure that the elections that are taking place now, the special elections you show up for, because that's incremental successes that we have to have. And without those incremental successes, people won't have they won't believe there's something to fight for. Those incremental small wins are important, because we then get to come back and say, see, this is what happens when we're active, when we're out there, when we're in the mix. That's at least how I'm seeing it. So, Karen, thanks for the call.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to have something to say about the bill and the feckless, yes, we can use that word, Republicans.
Yes, we can use that word.
All right. Have a great day. Talk with you soon.
Have a great day. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, so part of what Karen was talking about, guys, is the SCOTUS decision last week on birthright citizenship. I'll get into that a little bit. We're going to take a quick break, come back, and then I'll tell you guys a little bit more in case you haven't been paying attention to what happened. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line, and we'll be right back.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. After working several odd jobs in New York City, Henry Johnson found his way into the National Guard during World War I. Johnson was assigned to the 369th Infantry Regiment, but the all-black unit was better known as the Harlem Hellfighters. The Hellfighters' first task was assisting the French Fourth Army. On May 15, 1918, Hellfighter Johnson noticed Germans attempting to break in. Johnson retreated to get backup from the French troops, noticing German soldiers were attempting to kidnap another Hellfighter. Despite standing at only 5'4", Johnson sprung into action. With only 3 bullets and a bolo knife, Johnson was able to kill 4 enemy soldiers and wounded 21 others, causing them to retreat, saving himself and his men. However, Johnson received a total of 21 injuries all over his body, including his left foot being shattered. Johnson was discharged, and his papers did not show his heroism or his injury, leaving him unable to receive any disability compensation, leaving Johnson penniless at the time of his death at age 36. Johnson's heroism went unnoticed for decades until President Barack Obama awarded him the Medal of Honor in 2015.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, progressives. Welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. Of course, the number is 773-763-9278. That's the Credo mobile phone and text line. Let's grab a quick call from our friend Phil here in Chicago. Phil, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for taking the call.
Absolutely.
What surprises me is that no one's brought up how much Trump individually benefits from these tax benefits. Because look at the revenue stream that he's going to start to generate between the Truth Social IPO that went out, the cryptocurrency, the naming rights that he's selling to all these foreign countries, the revenue that he's going to be gaining over the next 4 years is going to be in the billions.
Well, did you see this, Phil, that since coming into office, his quote-unquote worth has increased by some $2.3 billion just from the...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I got the exact number exactly right, but damn, if it's $1 billion, if it's $500 million in 6 months, and yet the people who voted for him were whining about what the Dems weren't doing to improve their lives, yet this dude has increased his net worth by that much off of your backs? Sorry, man.
No, exactly. I mean, I'm just appalled that no one in the national media brings this up.
Yeah,
because it's so obvious what's going to happen.
It's so obvious, and the thing about it is too that this is the part that cracks me up, and why I always talk about people got to pay attention. The distractions are the distractions, Phil. We know that the distractions. What happened in Iran is a distraction. We go down the list since January 21st. Distractions. Because behind the curtain, that's the stuff what you're talking about, is how these side deals, every time he goes someplace, it's a side deal that he's getting some added benefit to his and his family's net worth. But you don't see mainstream media talking about it, truly investigating, and you sure as hell don't see any of his voters going, hey, wait a minute, that's not what I voted for. Because it is what they voted for.
And what's so alarming is the speed with which he wants this done. I want this done by the 4th of July.
Well, that's part show, too.
Why?
That's part show. Keep in mind, that's part show. He wants to be able to make a big splash. If he gets the bill done, I guarantee you, Phil, mark my words, if they get this done before the 4th of July, you can sure as heck believe he's going to make it a big deal about this is my gift to America on the anniversary of our country. You know that's coming out of his mouth, Phil. Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, no, you're not. Because especially the way the news media will present this. They'll go right along with what with what he's saying.
Yep.
You know, I'm just amazed that.
Well, listen, man.
Nobody's bringing this up.
Here's what you got to do. One of the things that I've been really leaning into is what we can do and what we have to do as individuals to then connect with each other, and that's this. Part of what you can do, first of all, you're calling into me, to our station, is a reminder, is greatly appreciated. Also, anything that you can do on social media, anything you can post, wherever you are, let it be known this is a problem. Where are the voices? We are the voices in ourselves. And so, you know, if you are so inclined to pick up and call the Capitol switchboard, do that. And the list goes on. But this is where we have to take back a little bit of the control. And Governor Pritzker said it last week. We have to be somewhat more responsible on an individual basis. And I'm not saying you, Phil. I'm saying we as all. So don't take that the wrong way, please. I don't mean it as a.
No,
I'm encouraging you.
I've done both marches, and it's amazing when you talk to people that are marching. They have such legitimate concerns about what's happening. It's not like a radical position, you know?
Yeah, the head nodding of like, yeah, somebody else. It's more than just being at the march or the rally. You talk to somebody and you're like, okay, I'm not crazy, because somebody else, the person 3 feet to my right or left, is literally thinking the same thing that I'm thinking. And that's why I want to keep empowering everybody to call, to write, to text, to bother the hell out of the elected officials on all levels, because that's our responsibility.
And one of the last things that I find more effective than trying to call individual politicians, I forget the guy's name. Who is the head of the Senate now on the Republican side?
John Thune. He's a Senate Majority Leader.
I'm calling his office rather than the individual senators, saying, hey, how can you let this happen?
Yeah.
And, I don't know what impact it has. But
that's what I'm talking about, though. That's what I'm talking about, Phil. That's what I was saying earlier. Call the Republican senators now. Call them. Call the Republican senators. They should be bothered. We should be bothering the hell out of the Republican senators. Seriously. So, Phil, great, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the call.
Well, thank you very much for taking my call. I've been dying to get this off my chest for...
Well, go take a deep breath and then call us back again so you can get more stuff off of your chest, okay?
Yeah, and one last thing that I'd like to talk about at some future date is that people forget that elections are corrective mechanisms in our government. Yeah. And I think that's why we've been so successful. And the Republicans are taking the corrective component out of our elections by trying to, reduce, people that can vote, to restrict voting rights. But that's another issue.
We'll talk about that, Phil.
You.
Thanks for the call, man. Stay safe today.
Yeah, you too.
All right, bye-bye. All right, guys, let's go to a quick clip, Devin. And this one, guys, it's a little bit in the weeds, but it's one I wanted to play for you as it talks about this Supreme Court ruling last week. It's more than just the window dressing, and I will call it the distraction or the okey doke, if you will, of it being about birthright citizenship. This young man breaks it down in a little bit more detail. So pay attention. If you don't get it all, I will send it to you, but I think it'll help you better understand what they're really trying to do.
Say that Trump issues an assault weapons ban nationwide by executive order. Okay, people are getting caught up on the headline, the birthright citizenship, and they're not focused on the actual more dangerous precedent that the Supreme Court ruling just offered. Because this case wasn't really about the constitutionality of birthright citizenship. This case was about the power of lower courts to put nationwide injunctions. So the ability of lower courts to tell the federal government, hey, this is wrong, you have to stop all across the nation, not just for whoever individually sued the government. It just happened to be that this case case involved the birthright citizenship case. So the Supreme Court hasn't actually ruled whether the birthright thing is constitutional or not. They have taken away the power of lower courts to issue these broad nationwide injunctions, which, in my opinion, has officially made the United States a dictatorship.
Did we lose? Okay. So here's the deal. Let me help everybody understand this. Okay. So by taking away a federal court's ability to issue an injunction on an issue that actually affects the country, that's what this decision really is all about, what it really has done. And so the birthright citizenship part of this in context is really, in my opinion, it's window dressing. But what it could lead to is something that is even more suspect and, frankly, in my mind, maybe even more dangerous. And here's how I'll try to break it down as best I can in this short window. What it potentially means is that they could give the administration the power to then say that, and they could do it by executive order. This is the tricky part, that if you are a descendant of someone who was enslaved, and I'll use this as an example because this is the one that's been in the back of my mind for a while, that the descendancy of your lineage, the person that was a first freed enslaved person wasn't really they weren't granted citizenship. So since they weren't granted citizenship, you as a descendant of those who were enslaved aren't actually citizens. That's the part when I say I'll take it personally, that's what that this ruling could end up allowing the president to have the executive order. It could issue an executive order saying that those who are descendants of enslaved people in this country aren't technically citizens because their ancestors were never really citizens. They were just granted their freedom from enslavement. That's where this could go. Now, some people say, no, Richard, that'll never happen. They said that Dobbs wasn't going, that a woman's right to choose wasn't going to ever go away. And it happened. So I've never been one to say that'll never happen. That ain't going to happen. Because I know how crazy the weak A, feckless folks on the right are. The racist, sexist, misogynist, Christian nationalist, privileged ones are. They still are fighting the Civil War and the Confederacy. Okay, so because of that, I want to be clear that it could be the problem that we could face is other groups could be. They could say, you guys think I'm crazy, but I'm not. They could say Donald Trump could issue an executive order that women aren't citizens. They could go back and say, if your parents weren't born here, X, Y, Z. So it's all about the power of the executive order. It's not that it's not that it would ultimately be enforceable in and of itself, the executive order. But what the Supreme Court said is that now a federal court can't say that the executive order can't be enforced in another part of the country. And there'd have to be a class to create a class action lawsuit that would then fight that in court to say that the executive order is illegal and unconstitutional. So I didn't overreact to this initially, and I'm not overreacting to it now. But when I said on Friday that this Supreme Court decision was about reworking the 14th Amendment, that's what I meant. It could then say that the 13th Amendment allows for the 14th Amendment through executive order, because the federal courts can't block this in some other part of the country or nationwide, that they could then reinstitute what? Enslavement. Y'all think I'm crazy? I'm not. What I'm saying is that's what this is really all about. It is about giving white. I said it on Friday, and some people get their undies in a bundle. Well, go unbundle them. This is about one thing and one thing only, and for those who are offended by it, maybe you should look in the mirror. This is about trying to reinstate white male power in the United States of America. That is all it's about. Period. That's what this is about. It just is. And some could say all kinds of things about, oh, you're playing the race card, you're playing the gender card. Go tell your mama I said it. Because that's the truth. That is what this is really all about. So pay attention when I say things like, don't get caught up in the distractions. These are the things that are sneakily going on behind the closed doors. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, hopefully we will have our good friend Michelle Duster with us to talk about a little bit more about this. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back. Hey, progressives, this is Richard Chu, host of Choose Views here on WCPT AM 820, 6 to 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. We have some real challenges in front of us as a country. Since the beginning of this show, I have always felt compelled to bring you the best that I've got. Now, there's always a why to doing whatever we do. So, as we go forward and face these challenges, know this, you listeners are my why. Because I want to make sure I do everything I can to provide a safe, open, forward-moving space that allows you to call, email, text, or just listen to a guy that wants to help you bring out your own championship qualities to truly make this place better for us all. Lofty goal, idealistic, maybe so. But that's my why, and I look forward to bringing you the best that I've got. This is Richard Chu. Stay tuned.
AP News, I'm Mike Hempen. 2 firefighters and a gunman are dead after investigators say the suspect opened fire on first responders in northern Idaho.
2 firefighters were shot and killed and another badly injured responding to a wildfire near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, Sunday afternoon.
They were being shot at on Canfield Mountain.
Kootenai County Sheriff Bob Norris.
We do believe that the suspect started the fire, and we do believe that it was an ambush.
After initial confusion and a massive police response, a shelter-in-place order was lifted. Law enforcement used cell phone data to hone in on a wooded area.
There was a male, appeared to be deceased, with a weapon nearby.
Norris says authorities had to scoop up the suspect's body before it was engulfed in flames. A procession accompanied the fallen firefighters as their bodies were taken from the hospital to the medical examiner's office in nearby Spokane.
We did lose a Coeur d'Alene firefighter, and we did lose a firefighter from the Kootenai County Fire and Rescue.
Audio courtesy KXLY. I'm Jennifer King.
After a weekend of setbacks, the Senate will try to push ahead later on President Trump's big bill of tax breaks and spending cuts, despite a series of challenges. An all-night session to consider an endless stream of proposed amendments to the package was abruptly postponed. It's now scheduled to launch later today. GOP Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina says he won't seek re-election after President Trump badgered him over his opposition to the package. He says he has the same goals as the president to cut taxes and spending. It could be a record-setting day one at Wimbledon, at least in terms of the heat. The temperature in London today, shortly before play began, was 82 degrees. The hottest first day of the tournament occurred in 2001 when it was 85. This is AP News. AP correspondent Charles D. Ledesma reports Sudan is dealing with the largest displacement crisis in the world.
At the Tinea border crossing, refugees are registered before proceeding to the transit site on the outskirts of the town. From there, convoys are regularly organised to relocate them to one of the camps in the region. Musa Mansour Issa, a 68-year-old farmer, fled the Zamzam camp in Darfur, crossing the border into Chad on foot. He says only God can understand the hell we went through to escape Zamzam. Those were very difficult times. We had to hide for 3 days because of the intense fighting and war all around us. The United Nations World Food Programme's Sean Hughes warns millions of Sudanese refugees risk plunging deeper into hunger and malnutrition as critical funding shortages force drastic cuts to life-saving food assistance. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
I'm Mike Hempen, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with partial sunshine developing and a high around 90. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Tonight, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 68. By Tuesday, sunshine, a high of 86 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun. We'll see a high around 90. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 79.
DQ presents How to Make Your Summer Take Flight. Just head into DQ for a new Superman cake batter cookie dough blizzard treat. Treat your inner hero to an epic mix of sugar cookie dough, sprinkles, and cake batter flavor. Blend it all with legendary DQ soft serve, and it's enough to tempt Superman himself. Fly into DQ for our new Superman cake batter cookie dough blizzard treat before it's gone. And don't miss Superman, only in theaters July 11th. DQ, happy tastes good. Only at participating locations.
You're listening to WCPT 820, because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, guys, welcome back to the show, 773-763-9278. Got a little spicy there at the last few minutes before we went to break, but I'll try to get the clip to you guys that we played earlier. And listen, as always, if there's clips that we play that I can't get to you, we can't always post certain things on social based on their origin. So just email me and I'll send it to you. And you can email me at richard@WCPT820.com. And I'll get everything I can to you. I know I'm sometimes a couple days behind, but it doesn't mean that I didn't see your email. Just running and gunning, as you guys know. No excuses. Okay. So I always just, excited when I have a chance to talk to my good friend and American author, public historian, Michelle Duster. Good morning, Michelle. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
I'm great. I'm talking to you, so I can't be doing too bad this morning. How you feeling this morning after this crazy last 6-7 days?
I'm good. Just trying to stay cool, emotionally and physically.
Yeah, the heat. It's like I was talking to somebody yesterday at the Pride Parade, and I said, yeah, we literally went from April, which was okay, May, which was okay, and then Memorial Day hit, and the switch got flipped, and now we're in the 90s, so it's just crazy. But yeah, we've got people that say, Richard, the weather's always been that way. We're not going through any climate change. Yeah, right.
I think that it's both when you say both and.
Yeah, both and. So Michelle, you and I have some time to talk about some great things. And so for those of you who don't know and haven't paid attention, Michelle is one of the leading authors and authorities on. I would like to put it this way: the whole conversation around civil rights and American rights and human rights. And I put those all together because when you read what Michelle writes, you recognize the depth that she goes to talk about how those are all intertwined, how they all work together. And I remember seeing Maya Angelou speak years ago, and she said that all rights in America are based on the outpouring of the civil rights movement. So whatever groups have prospered as a result of that have to tip their hat to the civil rights movement. But Michelle is such an authority in that space, and as you know, she's in the lineage. I was talking about lineage earlier of Ida B. Wells. But most recently, Michelle has been writing some great articles for Rebellious magazine, which you guys need to check out and just follow her at MLD Writes, because the work that she does over at Rebellious is just really cool and informative. And so I hope you guys take the time to follow her there. That being said, Michelle, let's get into, I guess you could say, a topic of the week, or at least an event of the week, and that's the 4th of July on the heels of Juneteenth. And how that celebration or those celebrations don't necessarily always strike the same chord with all Americans as it relates to who was free and when, and who gets to celebrate these holidays as we celebrate them now based on how they were celebrated in the past. What are some of your thoughts about those two holidays, particularly with the 4th of July coming up at the end of this week?
You know, I find it striking that I actually never really thought that deeply about the sort of irony of the fact that Juneteenth and 4th of July are about 2 weeks apart, and or 2.5 weeks apart from each other. But in addition to, so it's almost like we have two different Independence Days between, I guess, all of America and specifically African Americans who were freed from enslavement in 1865, which was Juneteenth is about. But then I was also thinking further about, in addition to those 2 days being different, there's almost like two parallel universes, because we have a Pan-African flag and an American flag. We have a Black national anthem and a full, United States anthem. And so when I was thinking about that, is as Black people in this country, we've have a long history of having sort of parallel or separate kind of celebrations about the same concept. And that's what I find interesting. And the reason I think we've done that is because we have been historically excluded. So we're like, okay, well, we'll create our own. So, I was just kind of thinking about the Pan-African flag and how people fly that. And, I mean, in addition to the American flag, but why do we have a Pan-African flag? Why do we have a Black national anthem? I think it's out of need to create our own.
Out of need to create our own, and I think in some ways, and out of need to not be rebuffed. And I look at those in some ways a little bit differently. What I mean by that is to acknowledge the disparity is the part that I could maybe say is to create our own. And then to acknowledge no longer accepting being rebuffed as an okay thing. Because even to this day, on the 4th of July, which is supposed to recognize the United States becoming an independent, as you say, nation, and the direct Declaration of Independence states that all men are created equal and have rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, there are still people that will be discriminated against on this day, this July 4th, nation's celebration of all men are created equal, and have those rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I think in many ways are creating certain things like a flag and an anthem and other points of celebration. It's also to say that we're no longer, we cannot accept being rebuffed any longer. And that our contributions, the fact that we have an independent nation, if you will, and we're able to put together a Declaration of Independence was in it of itself one of the most, I guess you could say the sort of the tipping point items that are part of the country are directly tied to the folks who were enslaved during that time, making it so that a other part of the country could be free from, the foreign entities that wanted to keep the country not free or not a separate nation. And it's a really weird sort of, like you said, back and forth volley in our brains as to where we are and why we are here today. So that's the reason that I thought it would be great to talk with you about this intersection between Juneteenth and July 4th. And they're both about independence or freedom, but they've been capsulized in a way different way into in terms of how all Americans should be able to embrace and celebrate the holidays.
Right. And the thing is that I don't know how many people have read Frederick Douglass's speech, What to the Slave is the 4th of July. It was written and spoken in 1852 on July 5th at an event that was commemorating the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It took place in Rochester, New York, with a gathering of 500 to 600 abolitionists. And it's just so classic. And I just want to quote Frederick Douglass because it was just so, it just says it all. He says, "What to the American slave is the 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim." And he goes on to say, "To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness, swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery, your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages." And that he said and wrote that in 1852. And I was rereading it yesterday, and I think it's sad, but it's true that a lot of what he said over 170 years ago rings true today. Just the level of hypocrisy that we are dealing with and the gaslighting that we're dealing with, and, sort of the attitude that we're sort of forced to believe in something that is a mirage. And we are the ones who are told that we are not patriots if we dare to criticize or point out the hypocrisies. The fact that some of the people who wrote the Declaration of Independence that lauded life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and all men are created equal, also enslaved people. Mm-hmm. So there was hypocrisy even within those individual human beings. So our country was founded on hypocrisy.
Yeah. And that's the part, this is what gets a lot of people, they get frustrated. They can't deal with it. They don't want to talk about it. Why do we have to keep going back? Why do we have to, why can't you guys just, let it go, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one of my challenges to that all the time is, well, then let's put some years and dates to when letting go should start. And just try this one out. And I want to come back to something that, as it talks about the greater society, the larger society. So the math is this, when we get into the conversation about letting it go and the conversation around reparations and this, that, and the other. Let's just try this out. If we were to say that after 1865, and we were to take Jim Crow off the table as a country and say, okay, enslavement was quote unquote over, and we got Juneteenth to deal with still in this conversation. But let's just say that we can go, all right, if you want to say this America, predominantly white America, folks who come here after enslavement that don't recognize that they would not be here were it not for what a particular community suffered through to make it available for them to be here. Let's just go back to, then let's just take the window between 1865 in reverse to 1776, the nation's, quote, independence. And let's just say that those 89 years, y'all, to do the math, are the years that we could legitimately say that if the nation were free, if the nation had become an independent nation, then that should mean that if all men are created equal and all men have the rights to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then those 89 years right there should be the measuring stick for reparations. Because if you want to say that after enslavement that the scales were even, and I know that that's crazy talk, but I'm just trying to give people something to think about. You can't deny as a country, if your head is screwed on straight, that the 89 years from 1776 to 1865, there's a check that the country should be writing to the folks that were enslaved during the post-United States independence, if you will. Do you see what I'm saying, Michelle?
Right, and so my response at this point, which I'm sure is very flippant, when people say, well, slavery was a long time ago, get over it. And I'm like, okay, I'll get over slavery when you get over the Confederacy.
Yep. That's not flippant at all.
People are still flying the Confederate flag and, talking about heritage and all of that. And I'm like, okay, as soon as all of the symbols that uplift people who were racial terrorists are torn down, until everything that the Confederacy was about, which was, racial hierarchy, until you get over that, and until you, you want to say that you are not responsible for what your ancestors did. None of us are responsible for what our ancestors did. Nobody can change the past. But if you are not responsible for what your ancestors did, then give back everything that you inherited from your ancestors.
Right. What's the definition of responsible?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to be tied to what your ancestors did, give back everything you inherited, give it all away, and then start from scratch, and then everything is on you. But you can't take the positive of what you, quote, inherited from your ancestors and then deny the negative.
No way.
And that's where there's also hypocrisy as well.
I'm not pivoting. I just want to add something to the value of this conversation for everybody to hear and feel. Right now, we're struggling with this whole crazy bill. And I say that we wouldn't be here fighting for the things that are going to benefit so many people, the least among us, if we want to use, the phraseology from different scripture. If America had said, we've got to fight for everybody, and that includes the people who were enslaved and what they've had to endure for centuries, decades, now going into the second century of it, post-enslavement. And it's a clip from Representative Catherine Clark that talks about the disproportionality of money and what is happening with this bill. And then I want to come back and chat with you a little bit about that. Can we play that clip, Devin?
Know what it costs to keep a kid on Medicaid? $10 a day. How about keeping that child fed with SNAP benefits? $6 a day. What do Republicans want to give away to the already rich? $6 million per billionaire. Think about that. For a billionaire, $6 million is not even a rounding error. For a hungry child, it's enough to eat every single day for 34 lifetimes. Inflicting hunger on children to give billionaires money they don't need and won't even notice? There is no moral code under which that is acceptable.
That was Representative Catherine Clark, and she's been definitely stepping to the mic in this space with this bill. And I know that you've got some thoughts about that. And we're talking with Michelle Duster, author and historian. But Michelle, let's chat a little bit about the bill and the greater conversation around how America keeps letting down the least among us.
I think there's, a feeling of not only letting down the least among us, but also the sort of halfway doing okay among us. Sort of the middle class or middle class that are genuinely living paycheck to paycheck, and are struggling. People are barely hanging on to a lifestyle that is not even as comfortable as their parents had, and there's a lot of documentation that are saying that children are having this country has always said, like, oh, the next generation will do better than the last generation, but that is no longer the case. And so a lot of things are out of grasp, even for, quote, middle class. Like, I'll give you one example of when I went to college, it was possible to, as a student, to work and make enough money to pay to go to college on your own. That was actually possible. And I think that is getting farther and farther away from a reality or even an option for a lot of students today. And there can be a lot of other examples of how things have gotten more and more out of grasp for hardworking people, if they are middle class or working class or whatever class they are besides billionaire class. And so in addition to that, to literally make things more difficult for people that are really, extremely struggling, and especially children who cannot take care of themselves. They have to rely on adults. And the adults that are in Congress right now, and actually many governor positions, are very okay with creating an extraordinary amount of hardship for the youngest and most vulnerable among us who cannot vote, and they cannot work. So they need advocates, and the adults that are in positions that can advocate for them are abandoning them.
They're acting more like children than the children who actually are, of child age, and not stepping forward to represent the people. The numbers are just I try not to use too many, high adjective words or words that don't really get to the core of it. But, people don't realize how cost effective Medicaid actually is. The cost per day to take care of children or to take care of those who are in need and making sure that food assistance is available. It's not even surprising to me that the number of people who, and this is why I wanted to sort of make this part of this last little segment, the number of people percentage-wise that are going to benefit from these programs and that have been benefiting from these programs historically have been people who are unfortunately voting against their own better will or better benefit. And that's just the raw number of the number of non-Americans of color, white Americans, that are going to suffer from this, from more red states than from blue states, and from more rural areas that are predominantly white than that are urban areas. But just keep wash, rinsing, and repeat the same voting patterns. And, of course, electing people who are going to not further their interests and make them better, but worse, make their situations worse. It's astonishing to me.
But the politics has been racialized, because when people think of welfare, they have been conditioned to think of people who don't look like them. And then there's this sort of attitude that government is bad. Mm-hmm. And so, but not necessarily putting two and two together on what government does. And, so we have a history in this country of this idea of rugged individualism. And people, can sort of go and take care of themselves, and they don't need the government. They don't need government handouts, and so they're not thinking in their head that Medicaid for their kid or SNAP that provides food is the same as government. And so I really think there's a lack of knowledge base on what exactly government does. And that is, connected to the education system. Civics has been taken out in a lot of districts where people don't really even know what the government does.
Right.
And then they're being pounded with this idea that people are, entitlement programs, and they're skimming off of the government, and all of that. And so then they're thinking those people over there are stealing and they're lazy and they're living off the government. And so they don't think of it as themselves.
Right.
And so there's a level of propaganda in this country and I think people really do need to say the word propaganda that is being spewed at people, and so they are being misinformed deliberately, in my opinion, and so that they will vote against their own interests without realizing that they're voting against their own interest.
I love listening to Michelle talk. I mean, I've said this before, just sit back and let her go, because she is elegant in what she writes, elegant in what she says. One of our best authors and public historians in the country. She's got over 3 decades of experience in letting folks know what they need to know when it comes to this conversation. And I'm so always honored and privileged, and you make me laugh because your chuckle just makes me chuckle back at you. But I appreciate you taking some time out this morning, Michelle, to be with us and to talk about this on this week of 4th of July, if you will. How can folks find you? How can they get with you and make sure that they're plugging into what you're writing and what you're talking about?
It's easy to find me on social media. My handle is at Michelle Doster, Michelle with 2 L's. And my website is mldwrites.com.
Fantastic. Michelle, thanks for being with us. I can't wait till we get back together in another few weeks to chat about what's happening and your take on it. And go follow her work at Rebellious Magazine. It's a great spot to be. So thanks for being with us, Michelle.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye. All right, y'all, let's take a quick break, Dev. 773-763-9278 is the number. When we come back, we will be talking with none other than legendary, my colleague, my radio big sister, Joan Esposito. We'll be right back.
OMG, it's the work week and back to the daily grind. Alarms, emails, kids, meetings, chores, and so on. It's exhausting. We've all experienced the stress of the daily grind, but at Total Dentistry, the daily grind is quite different. This is Dr. Anna Pellick, and grinding refers to your biting force, the stress you place on your teeth, bone, and gums that actually causes destruction. Grinding can cause increased decay by wearing away your protective outer enamel. Grinding can cause gum recession, bone loss, and jaw problems. So what can Total Dentistry do for your daily grind? There are solutions such as bite appliances. We can restore your lost tooth structure with bonding or replace gum tissue with grafts. But early diagnosis and prevention is always best. So escape your daily grind and visit Total Dentistry. Call us at 847-358-2477 or visit us at totaldentistry.org. Total Dentistry, a general dental practice like no other, now in Streamwood and Palatine.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms here for today with partial sunshine developing and a high around 90. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Tonight, chance for showers and storms, cloudy, a low near 68. By Tuesday, sunshine, a high of 86 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun. We'll see a high around 90. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 79.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
It's Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose View, 773-763-9278. So later on today, from 2 to 5, you'll be listening to this wonderful, legendary journalist that'll be live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5. That would be none other than Joan Esposito. Good morning, Joan, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Richard. How are you today?
I'm good. Joan and I got to hang out on the float yesterday, guys. And so for those of you who had a chance to see, Joan and I were making sure that there were beads to get passed out and all kinds of good things.
And we had a competition to see who could sweat the most.
Oh, my gosh.
Do I want to know who won?
I think it was a tie. Joan was just a little bit more respectful about it. She was real cool about it.
Well, see, I had on some dresses, you put them on, and you can really see when you're sweating. I specifically picked a dress that you can completely sweat through and you can't tell at all.
There you go. And you pulled it off well. Me, on the other hand, I didn't have a dress on. I had on a blue shirt and blue shorts, and I was good to go. But I had a couple of golf towels because I knew.
You did. I was looking. Were they chamois? What were those things?
No, those are just golf. I grabbed them from my golf bag the night before. I stuffed them in my little backpack, and I said, you know you're going to need this. You're going to need your frozen bottle of water.
Because I said to Ray later, I said, Richard brought his own towels.
It's a Boy Scout in me. What can I tell you? Man, it was good hanging out yesterday, Joan, and what a great parade, and how proud are we of our city of pride,
Was it my imagination? It seemed to me not only that there was a bigger crowd, but the crowd was really, really into it.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes people are just kind of like, yeah, there you go. But these people were yelling and waving and so happy. I think that people understand what's at stake, and instead of scattering, they are coming together and they are making their voices heard. And I was so pleased to see that.
Yeah, me too. And I was, there last year, and I don't know if it was a bigger crowd or not this year than last year. But what I can say is to your point, the crowd was so engaged this year. The crowd was loud. I mean, and it's what's so cool about the route that we take is where it goes through this part of the city. But the fact that folks were on their balconies and some of the apartment buildings and condos and homes, sitting out in their front areas, hanging out, on their balconies, having their own little get-togethers with family and friends and whatnot. That was just such a cool celebration to see, and it gets to your point. I think folks are realizing, at least I hope and pray, Joan, that folks are realizing that we are truly, it's not just words, we are truly stronger together.
Yep.
We don't have to agree on everything. That's the problem not the problem, but that's the thing that folks have got to let go. We don't have to agree on everything or their approach. We just have to agree on the one thing, and that is coming together and staying together is our superpower, because they are trying their darndest to separate and pull us apart. And yesterday was one of the great examples of us coming together and staying together. And I just hope it continues to, we keep doing that.
Well, we're one of the states where LGBTQ people feel safe and respected. And I think that showed yesterday.
It did. And a lot of that is due to us as folk. But it's also, we've got great leadership that's made it clear. Our Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton, who I had a chance to chat with yesterday, but our governor, J.B. Pritzker, who has made the decision in the announcement last week, as you know, that he's running for a third term. And the phrase I've used is that JB is standing in the void. He was the first governor to come out after the election last year and say the words, if you're going to come from my people, you got to come through me. And he's delivering on that now by saying he's going to stick around for a while and try to get reelected. And I'm proud of him for that. And I'm just curious what some of your thoughts are.
Well, I talked to one Democratic strategist a few months ago who said, he shouldn't run for a third term. He's got name recognition already. He doesn't need any more money. If he runs for a third term and something bad happens, that's only going to hurt him. But that didn't quite, I think even though he is a Pritzker and has sufficient funds, I think that being a governor gives him a platform that just being, well-spoken rich man doesn't necessarily provide for you. So I think it's the right decision. I think Rahm Emanuel is probably frustrated because I think that Rahm Emanuel wanted to run for governor, but I think it is the right decision and that Pritzker made.
Yeah, I wondered, so since you mentioned Rahm Emanuel, who do you think will be potentially some of JB's challengers, whether they be from the left, from the middle, or from the right?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, we've seen Gavin Newsom make noises like he wants to run for president, though I think that Gavin Newsom, made the same poor decision that Kyrsten Sinema did, that if you suck up to the Republicans, the Democrats will still vote for you and you'll get Republican votes. I don't care if he had Steve Bannon on his podcast, but you can't let Steve Bannon run amok without challenging him. And Gavin was just kind of, And I mean, hello. So I think Gavin Newsom has made some critical errors. He doesn't seem to have completely thought out his position on trans people. Oh, we have to take care of them. But I do understand that some people, have second thoughts about them being in sports, at least some of the time with some of the... Gavin, please, don't say anything if you can't figure out what your position is, because you're not winning any friends by being all over the map. So I don't think Gavin Newsom is as strong as he once was. As we just mentioned, Rahm Emanuel, he's made noises about pursuing a possible presidential run. Though, honestly, Richard, I'd like to know what you think about this. Rahm, as you and I both know, really is not done with politics. Politics may be done with him, but he's not done with politics. I think Rahm wants to try to raise his profile and be somebody who just tells it like it is in the hope that maybe somebody will tap him as their VP. I don't think Pritzker will, but maybe that's what Rahm's shooting for, because I just don't see him going from ambassador to Japan to the big leagues, especially since I think that if he does try to run on his own for a big office, I think the Laquan McDonald cover-up is going to come back, and it is going to drown him.
And I think it should. So I'll start with in reverse order. I think that situation has to be around his neck until he speaks up and speaks to it. Until he does that, it's not clear to me that he is going to be honest about the process and what took place that evening and then the days and weeks subsequent to it. So that's the first part of the answer. I also agree with you about he's testing a couple of different venues to see where he's going to have the best possible opening. And he's doing exactly what you and I are doing. He's hoping that we'll do exactly what you and I are doing, and that's make him part of the conversation so that someone comes back and says, I do need a junkyard dog on my team, and it's probably Rahm Emanuel, because he can go off and do his thing and get dirty and blah blah blah, and soothe his ego, and I can go run the office that I'm going to run. I think you're right about that. That just again goes to show your political astuteness and awareness of how this might play itself out. But I just don't see him being something. There's a lot of the conversation around the Democratic, whomever he or she is going to be in terms of running for president, needs to be this fighter and this tough. I get that, and I agree with that. I don't think it needs to be a person that's offensive in that process. And you can go on offense. Are
you saying Rahm Emanuel can be offensive?
Sure, it can, and that's not necessary.
He's famous for it. It's like his calling card.
That's his calling card. Yeah, thank you. And that card has kind of got some tinges and some burns on it, and I just don't think that's the person. I mean, Josh Shapiro is a fighter too. Josh Shapiro can throw him. But he can throw them, and he can be that junkyard dog, but he can do it and at the same time make you feel good that he's junkyard dogging you. And that's
well, you raise an interesting point. I think the most viable candidate to be the Democratic nominee for president is going to be a governor.
Yep. I
don't think it's going to be a senator. I don't think it's going to be a congressperson. I think it is going to be a governor.
And I think this is going to sound crazy, but I think it should be. And the reason is because of his or her electability through the entire state and his or her ability to have the credibility that says, I know how to be a chief executive. There's a certain value in that that says to the folks who would be voting for him or her that I know how to run this thing and look at the successes of my state, look at the things that we didn't do right, and we worked to fix them. And on a state level, as a governor, you've got all of those things you've got to navigate. So there's some names that are going to rise. I mean, obviously, Shapiro's one of them. I think Walz may throw his hat. Could. Why would he not? I think Gavin would be a great candidate, but I think he's got to clean up his act in those two areas. And the faster he does it, the better, because he does know how to fight. Let's be honest. Gavin Newsom is not afraid of the fight. I just think that he got bad counsel to having those two guys on his show or on his podcast. There's others. I mean, Gretchen Whitmer certainly will ascend in that governor's.
Well, here's where I get into swampy territory. I don't want to see a woman. I don't want to see I don't want to see a woman run for president. I don't want to see a woman drafted as a vice presidential candidate. I think if we've got a man at the top of the ticket and they pick a woman to be their VP, people are going to feel like it's Biden and Harris again. And that was a team that was not successful. And I think that lack of success is going to be, fairly or not, psychologically paired to a team like that. And this country is not ready for a woman president.
And it's
Is not.
And here's the thing why we have to listen to those words and press pause and go, let's think about it. The aspiration is there, but the real work to be put in to get the right people to look at this differently is not there. And we've had two bites at the apple, to use a phrase. I want to share a story with you, Joan, about that. When Hillary Clinton was running for the nomination in 2006, 7, and 8 against Barack Obama, I had a colleague of mine say to me, and this was, and I'll keep it as clean as I can, or I'll keep it clean. We were talking about this, and he's like, Chew, and he's white male. He said, Chew, listen, dude, I don't know. I mean, I can't really get behind voting for Hillary Clinton. He said, I'm going to vote Democratic, but I can't get behind voting for her. I said, why? She's qualified, blah, 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 blah. He said, dude, all I've known is just growing up with guys. He said, I don't have a problem. I said, and I've grown up around a lot of black guys. I don't have a problem with the black guy as president, but I just can't vote for my mother. That has stayed with me, Joan. That was a long time ago. And so there's a part of what you just said that is, it's truth. And it didn't come from a dude, Joan Esposito, a woman who's respectfully been around for a minute and seen the ebbs and flows of this, just said it, guys. And
on top of that, I was talking to a gay guy that I know. We were talking politics, and I said what I just said about a woman candidate. And he looked at me and he said, I don't think this country is also ready to elect a gay man, because a lot of people are talking about Pete Buttigieg. He said, I'm a gay man. I don't want to see Pete Buttigieg at the top of the ticket, because I think that means we will lose, because this country has moved so far to the right. So it's even worse, Richard.
Yeah, it is. We're talking with Joan Esposito, my radio big sister, about a little bit of everything this morning.
Slightly less sweaty than Richard.
Yes, that's right. And yesterday I won the award for the, but given the fact that we were out in that sun and that the heat and the rain, I guess it served us well to be there. Joan, everybody's talking this past weekend about the bill and what it really means or what it doesn't mean. And this is my really this simple observation about the bill. And so many people that are upset have got to remember that there are 51 people that basically decided to be traitors to the country. And that's Richard's opinion. That's Richard's statement. Because the people that voted for those Republicans that elected them to office are going to be the same people that predominantly are going to be negatively impacted by what's in the bill and what's actually not in the bill.
Yep.
And
I agree with you.
And it seems it's somewhat mind-boggling to me. And Michelle Duster said this. She just cut to the chase and said, Richard, it's the same old, playbook of racism and in some cases sexism. But here we are. A lot of people who voted for the Republicans that voted for this bill are going to be the first to be harmed and harmed the most. So I'm upset with the 51 traitors, but I'm also concerned about the 78 million that said, these are the people that we want in office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the reason that it got out of the committee was Lisa Murkowski was the deciding vote, and she got a whole bunch of not cutouts completely, but she got a whole bunch of things that you'd like to see in every state. Like a lot of federal spending was restored. The Medicaid cuts were softened. She was the lone holdout. She got this whole list of things for Alaska.
Yeah.
And, here's what I wonder. There are other Republicans who know that they are going to face a tough reelection bid because of the unpopularity of this bill. Now it's out to the main Senate for voting. What's to say that other Republicans aren't going to look at that and say, well, Murkowski got all this. Guys, I'm not voting for this bill unless my state gets some extra special good stuff. Not all of them will have the strength of character to stand up against the Senate, but I would be surprised if there wasn't at least one or two. And, now they're doing this big vote-a-rama where anybody can throw out any amendments and then it all has to go back to the House, and it's going to be a real mess. But, the fact is, the bottom line is that poor people and poor kids are going to suffer so the rich can get richer. I mean, there you go, the bill in one sentence. And you know that the Republicans, Richard, that they've been hearing from their constituents because of what Mitch McConnell said.
I know.
Mitch McConnell said to his fellow senators, oh yeah, I know you're getting all these calls. Your constituents don't like it, but they'll get over it. The kindest, most empathetic man who's ever been in the Senate, they'll get over it.
They'll get over it. I mean, I guess they have a short train ride to death. That's how they're going to get over it. Mm-hmm. It's just going to, lose all of the... Even
Tommy Tuberville from Alabama, who in my book vies with probably Ron Johnson for which one is the stupidest member of the Senate. When this bill was first suggested, Tommy Tuberville came out and said, well, a lot of people in my state are on Medicaid. I think this is going to hurt my state. Tommy Tuberville could see it. So darn well the rest of them could see it too. But Tommy Tuberville, by the way, not going to run for re-election, now going to run for governor. So he might be one of the few who could vote for this bill and not lose his job.
Which is, that to me is weaker than weak is weak. I'm going to vote for it, cause some harm, and then here's the crazy part about it. And then turn around if I'm going to run for governor in the same state to ask for the people who I just cut their wrist to come and show up and vote for me after I just sliced their wrist. That to me, I mean, wow. Speaking of senators, Tom Tillis. I think that was the other. I couldn't remember the two. It was Rand Paul and Tom Tillis. But he's not. He's now. This is what Senator Booker was saying. Why in the hell are Republicans afraid of Donald Trump? They should be afraid of their voters. And Tillis, now that he's catching hell from Trump, has decided in part that he's not going to run for run for re-election. So this is one of those moments, though, where Democrats, the organizing machine in the state of North Carolina, if we could elect a Democratic governor, then they need to be running hard and fast now to get behind the right candidate in North Carolina to get that seat. It cannot go to a Republican because that Republican could end up, I don't know what worse is, but be worse than Tillis. So this is where the Democrats have got to step up in all candor and not let that.
Do you think, Richard, now that he's said he's not going to run for re-election, because, that's been the big fear. The people, the Republicans on the Hill and in the Senate, most of them who aren't just blinded by the cult of Trump, they understand that what they are doing is deeply unpopular and that they're weighing the risks, and they think that they have less risk from their voters than they have from Trump, because it's all about hanging on to your job. What I wonder is that now that Tillis has said he's not going to run for re-election, will we start hearing the truth? Because you and I know there are so many Republicans who will tell you privately how horrified they are by Trump. But if they have to speak in any kind of public capacity, you'd think they were 100% behind this guy. They're cowards. They're afraid of what he can do. I wonder what we're going to hear from Tom Tillis in the coming weeks and months.
I agree with you that, well, let me back up and say, to answer your first question, I hope that there is information. I hope that there are conversations that he will have. And I mean, what does he have to lose? If he's stepping away and he's figured out what his next train ride is going to be, then if he is, see, this is where I guess part of my answer, Joan, is I believe that all folks in their core are probably good, but it's a question of if they choose to act on that or not. And this is going to be one of those moments. If Tillis, in his mind and his heart, believes he's a good person, then he should. That's the good side of me speaking. But the dark side of me says, you know what, dude, it's too late.
Yeah.
You went out all this time. So who cares?
A couple of times I've hoped that people who announced their retirement would be bold and be honest, but a lot of times they don't want to alienate the Republican apparatus in their state, because now they're looking for cushy private sector jobs.
Bingo.
And if they go against Trump too hard, nobody's going to want to hire them.
Yep, that's the reason why my dark side says it's too late, because now you're not saying it. You should, but you're not, because you're still doing the same thing. You're just not an elected official. You still got your hand in the cookie jar, and you know that talking too much trash, which would be the truth, would get that hand snapped. And so, aspirational, yes, but is it realistically going to be what he does? I doubt it, and that's unfortunate. So I'm hoping that the Dems find the candidate.
My hopes have been dashed before, Richard, so I'm trying to keep them, in check. As much as I can.
I'm upset, Joan, that you and I did not get invited to the not American, as I call it, royalty wedding, i.e. the...
what makes you think I wasn't invited?
Oh, see, you made it.
What makes you think I wasn't invited?
You turned down the invitation.
I had a pride parade to go to.
That's right,
Richard.
I forgot.
I'm sorry. I'm a busy woman.
I realized that Lauren probably wanted to have you there for hair and makeup, and to make sure she was wearing the right dress.
It was going to be Oprah's plus one, but whatever.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jeff, I think he was trying to reach me, but he. I must have been on the golf course or something.
But interestingly, here again, protest makes an impact. They had to change their venue.
Right.
They had to move at the last minute. This $55 million extravaganza had to be moved from where they were all going to be partying to a place that was on an island where they could raise the bridges. So then the only way you could get there was by boat, because protesters were planning to disrupt it. Because
of what? This is what cracks me up. It's because the protest against this in Venice is due to the fact that there was a failure by Bezos, as I read, to have paid some taxes, something along that line. But
yeah, well, they spread out a big poster in St. Mark's Square that said something like, "If you can buy Venice, you can pay taxes." Something along
like
those
that.
lines.
Yeah. Wow. So he's cheating or avoiding. I'm going to say cheating because that's an inflammatory word. He's skirting the issue on his taxes, even in another country.
Oh, Oh, yeah. Well, I saw something in the last few weeks that said most of, the Elon Musks, the Jeff Bezos, their tax rate is 6 to 8%.
That's crazy.
I don't know about you, Richard, but mine's a little bit higher than that.
Well, and like Representative Catherine Clark said about this budget, about the bill, it's a blip on the screen. A $6 million error is
they're not even going to notice it.
They're not going to notice it. So
to try to soothe any protest. Bezos was throwing money around Venice. $1 million for this organization, $1 million for that organization. He tried to buy the goodwill of Venice. It did not work.
Nope, it did not work. I tell you what is working, and that's Joan Esposito from 2 to 5, Mondays through Fridays, y'all, giving you the lowdown here on WCPT. Joan, my big sister, my big radio sister, thank you for being with me this morning.
You're very welcome.
And chopping it up. Have a great rest of the day. And
thank you.
Tune into the Joan Esposito Show, y'all, live, local, and progressive here on WCPT. Thanks, Joan. Talk to you soon.
Bye, Richard.
Bye-bye. Devin, we did it again, man. We got through, and we got to hang out with Joan. We got to hang out with Michelle Duster. Make sure you guys listen to Joan's show. She brings it. She's been doing this for a long time. She knows what she's talking about. Great guest will be on her show today. And also make sure you follow Michelle Duster, MLD Writes. She's one of the best authors and historians in the country, and we are so blessed to have her as part of our show. 773-763-9278 is our number. As we always say, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
The far left's anti-ICE riots.
Republicans are so dumb. Because at WCPT, we go to Riot Fest to riot, baby! Riot Fest is back in Douglas Park, September 19th through the 21st. Come see all your favorite bands: Blink-182, Alkaline Trio, Weird Al Yankovic, Weezer, Green Day, and many more. Tickets are still on sale at riotfest.org, but lucky for you, if you join the WCPT 820 Club, WCPT will send you to Riot Fest! Riot Fest! September 19th through the 21st at Douglas Park in Chicago.
When it comes to banking, you need a bank you can trust. A bank with a rock-solid reputation and the highest integrity. A bank that gives you the attention and respect you deserve.
ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922, and we've made our name on deep expertise, best-in-class service, and a strong commitment to our customers. We know the Chicago business market inside and out and can help you craft the perfect banking solution, no matter what type of business you're in.
And if you're looking for a banking partner for your labor union, we can bring the type of expertise that only comes from a bank that was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders to this day.
Whether you need a deposit account, loan, trust services, or investment management, ABOC has you covered. Let's work together to manage your finances today while planning for a better tomorrow. ABOC, a bank built on a strong foundation.
Visit aboc.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
AP News, I'm Mike Hempen. Authorities are waiting to confirm the identity of the suspect in a deadly shooting at Canfield Mountain, a popular scenic and biking area near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.